I'm excited about today's show. We are going to take the law of attraction to a whole new level and get us all ready to leap out of 2020 and into 2021, knowing how to more reliably manifest our dreams with just pen and paper. Are you intrigued yet? Hey, it's Sheryl Sitz welcoming you to another episode of Exploring Possibilities. Each time we transform life from the inside out in holistic spiritual ways. We've been doing this since 2012. All of our shows can be found at journeyofpossibilities.com, and new shows airing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all the popular platforms, and youtube.com/Sheryl Sitz. We want to keep this content free and accessible to everyone, so we would love your contributions at journeyofpossibilities.com/support. Joining us next, Royce Christyn.
Hi, I'm Mario Rosales. I am the producer of Exploring Possibilities. I actually do IT work. I do website design. I do remote support. You know, one of the things that I've been having recently, I've been working with people that are on Wix. And at the beginning, even I had the idea that Wix wasn't that powerful. But as I started working with it, I found out that there is so much more in there that we are not taking advantage of. We're not taking advantage of its database functionality. We're not taking advantage of their autoresponders. And a lot of this comes included for free in some of their packages. I've learned the system very well to the point that I can train you on how to do it. Or if you ask me to do some complicated task, I can design it for you within Wix. Then after I'm done, I give you the training on how to use it. And then if you have any troubles, you can always call me. Thank you. I am Mario Rosales, and you can reach me at mariorosales.com. Let me help you out wherever I can. Thanks.
You've likely seen today's guest on TV before. Royce Christyn is an actor, speaker, writer, and documentary filmmaker who's researched and published a reliable, reproducible method for manifesting our dreams. His new book is called Scripting the Life You Want. And there's an affiliate link so that you can purchase a copy right here on the show. A small gratuity will come back to us to support our work. You can learn more about our guest at roycechristyn.com. Welcome, Royce.
Thank you so much, Sheryl. I am so happy.
Me too. And it's funny because we've had a couple of mishaps or setbacks or synchronicities that have led us to reschedule this show already. And the timing is perfect.
It actually worked out better. Well, there's the law of attraction at work. I mean, we, just full disclosure to your audience, we had one of the most interesting things that I've had as far as this book and all of the press that we've done since it came out in April. It turned out that on the same exact day in March, an hour apart, two radio hosts named Sheryl booked an interview with me on the same week and the same time around the same place. So what happened was I did the first one, and then for some reason the calendars got merged, and my publicist and I both did the same thing. And it was just, unfortunately, I was just absolutely in a panic. I've never missed an interview in my life. Obviously, that resume you just read was so nice. I don't know who writes them. It's very embarrassing sometimes, but I've been doing these for a long time, and I've never had that happen. So you were so gracious and so kind, and anybody out there who's a longtime listener, I am new to Sheryl, but my goodness, she walks the walk and made it happen so that we could redo it. But it's so funny because I've been working on actually a new TV show, and it's been amazing, but as they are, tiring. And the timing of the first interview, obviously, I didn't know I would have a show back in March when, we scheduled it originally for the first time. And it worked out that today was the perfect day. I'm fully rested, didn't have any other obligations, and was able to get ready for the audience to hopefully have a much different conversation about the law of attraction. We talked a little bit about before the show, going beyond the basics and into I'm a giant science nerd. And I will also say to everyone out there, Sheryl is the kindest person ever, but I gave her permission ahead of time to interrupt me because I will not stop talking. So if you hear her do it, it's because I begged her to do it because I don't know how to stop, if you can't tell already.
Oh, you're so funny. Okay, well, good. So let's jump into the direction that we've already kind of gone a little bit, because one of the things that comes up a lot around law of attraction and this whole idea that we can manifest whatever we want, there's kind of two schools of thought. There's take charge of your life, manifest your dreams school of thought. And then there's, what about going with the flow and the idea that we're divinely guided and that our guidance knows better than we do what's best for us, like the rescheduling of today's show. So where do you land on that debate with people who are saying, do I need to do this or should I just go with the flow?
So I always teach my clients and my readers that that's actually attracting. That is the perfect way to approach the law of attraction, is to intend to be in the flow state. So for instance, for me, every morning, I have a method that is just super simple. I don't believe in anything that feels like dogma or that you have to do like constantly and every single day. I'd like to teach really easy, simple tools because I can't do stuff every day. We're all human. And part of being human, I think the fun part is what you said, finding out where, there is places and pieces and parts of our lives that, are guided. I don't think everybody wants to have, I shouldn't say everybody. I'm sure there's a person out there who wants to have absolute control over every second. But, I intend every morning to, these are the very basic things I'd say to anybody out there listening who, goes, well, I don't know what I want, or I don't know how to get in that flow, or I don't want to manifest, or I do, but I don't know where to start. The first thing that I have everyone do is called a want list. First thing in the morning. It's actually very based in science, which we'll get into. I have, my clients, and I do this too. We write down, it's called a want list, but ironically, we do not write the word want, because if you say, I want a new house, or I want a perfect girlfriend, your focus is squarely on not having it. So I have everyone change it to I intend, because there's something really actionable about the word intend. And there's actually science to back it up, which I'll talk about in a second. So if you say, I intend to have that beautiful house on Main Street, or I intend to have the perfect relationship, it feels better. And adding to that, for people who think they don't know what they want, and to answer your question, because they actually sort of go together, is I always say, because manifesting comes in cycles, and when you're really understanding how you attract, you see that, you're going to have weeks and months at a time where everything's coming in and flowing in, and then it all gets there, and, you kind of have to figure out what it is and where you want to go next. So the first thing, and I do this myself probably every 2 weeks, is I always write down, I intend to know what I want, and I intend to know what I need. And then the big one is, I intend to take inspired action. And what that means is, there's that sort of unaligned grinding. It feels really bad. And, we're at a deadline, or we're forcing ourselves to do something, and just, it all feels yucky. And that's not inspired action. That's the really easy way to put it. But inspired action is when you kind of follow that intuitive nudge from within, or those hunches. So, I work very, very logically with the law of attraction, but also I like to kind of twist it around and work backwards. So when you're intending to know what it is that you even need or want, or intend to do what it is that to trust your gut and just go for it, you're actually putting out there that you are open to being in that alignment state, in that flow state that you mentioned. So to me personally, and I've been really fortunate enough, like you said, I've been on sitcoms and television shows, and I've directed, I've written, I'm very well versed in manifesting, but I've also been fortunate enough to work with everyone from, I've worked with a billionaire, actually from Texas. I've worked with people from all over the world who are fantastic manifestors, who sometimes fall off the manifesting wagon, because everybody uses this. And, the thing that usually brings people back is reminding them that, exactly like you said, you can't control everything, but what you can control is, how am I going to go into my day and basically program, because that's really the science behind this. Shows us that it's actually a programming sort of mechanism we're doing when we do an intention list. And how am I going to program my day and program my mind's filter to actually help me bring in these things? And I can go into that for a second, because I think it's fascinating, because most of the things written about the law of attraction, like you said, they focus so much on just what it is you want, and what it is that, what the materialistic, like kind of against the flow, against the grain way of doing it. And to me, what I've seen with my clients and with myself is that when you sort of learn what's actually going on and the science behind it, it makes it a lot easier to manifest. And it gives you the ability to just take a deep breath, because this is supposed to be fun, not hard. And like I always say, there are days you're not going to want to do it. There's people, life happens, and we have this sort of, I think, unfortunately, in this world of self-help and the law of attraction and manifesting communities, there's a lot of old or older ways of thinking that are changing now, but it's still very prevalent, this idea that it has to be this ritualistic thing. And it actually doesn't work that well when it's done that way. And that's because of this filter called the Reticular Activating System. That I'm happy to go into, because I think, even though it sounds scary, if you're out there listening, don't turn off, don't shut down, because the filter in your brain, it is one of the biggest discoveries of the last few decades, and it is the biggest, quickest way to understanding how you manifest things in your life. And it also explains what they used to call the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, when you see 1111, and then perhaps you start seeing it everywhere, 1111, 1111, or 333, or maybe you hear a word that's a little bit weird to us, like Windsor, or you see someone like Queen Elizabeth, and suddenly Queen Elizabeth seems to be everywhere. They used to call that the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, but now they know that actually there's a part of our brain, a system that holds an area called the Reticular Activating System, and it is our brain's filter. And what they found is, not only they knew that it was there, it's a very primal piece of our mind. So science has known for a long time that it looks out in your environment around you for what's going to help you survive and, cover the basics, food, procreation, and just basic survival. But what they've realized in the last 20 years, and the research is fascinating, is it's like a programmable computer. So while it's looking out around you for all of the things and it monitors fight or flight, all of those basic primal things, you actually tell it what to focus on in your environment, because our minds are so powerful. And I always use the analogy of a supercomputer. The biggest, best computer in the world is your brain. And it literally takes in every single thing around you, even if you're not consciously aware. And you're not consciously aware because that filter is active. Now, if you look at a Facebook page, it's the best example. Mel Robbins is a wonderful self-help author and speaker, and she uses this example too when it comes to this filter. And if you really look at a Facebook page or any internet page, and you looked at every ad and photograph, and there's something blinking over here and a video over here, and all this stuff, you'd go nuts. That's your brain's reticular activating system. That's that filter helping to actually only point out to you the things that you've told it essentially that are necessary. So when you're writing an intention list in the morning, you're actually programming your reticular activating system to point things out in your environment. And to take it a step further, if you don't, if you're new to this, there's this really fun little thing you can do. If you are like me and you lose your keys all the time, or maybe your phone, or if there's a certain thing that we all have those 3 or 4 things that we get in the house, or we're just in the house and suddenly they're somehow gone. What you can do is, because your brain is taking in this information constantly of everything that you do, every action. But when it doesn't think it's necessary, maybe you're had a bad day or you're focused on something else, and you just kind of throw your keys down somewhere in the house and you move on, your brain's filtered it out. It still knows where you threw your keys. So what you can do to play with this a little bit is, if you're looking everywhere and you're scrambling, just stop. And for the first couple of days, it feels a little weird, but it's fun. You don't have to do it in front of other people. You can even whisper it, but say out loud, "Brain, show me my keys." Now, this sounds nuts, but you say, "Brain, show me my keys." And then just do something else. And it is the craziest thing, because within about 2 or 3 minutes, that filter operates within your neurology, and it will bring it back into your experience essentially. And you'll notice, oh my goodness, they were right in front of me, or they were on the shelf. You'll walk by it while you're doing something else. The key there is you just have to drop it after you say it and just do something else. And I promise within 5 minutes, you will find whatever it is that you've lost. And after a few days, you don't have to say it out loud. It will just be programmed that you can just stop, think to yourself, all right, hey, where did I put this? And, people get really spooked because it works. And
that is so cool. I love that. So let me clarify, just to make sure I'm following you, because you're giving us a lot of information and it's really interesting, but I want to make sure that we're tying it all together. So you're telling me that this is relevant to manifesting, because in your process, which is scripting every morning what you want, what you intend for your day, that's activating the RAS to make you aware when opportunities and things that correlate with that show up, so that you can stay in flow? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Let me tell you a quick story that I wish I could have gotten into the book, but it happened after, it was all out to the publisher and out to the printers. I used to give a lot of talks. This year, obviously, it's been tricky, but I always was, at least for the last 5 or 6 years, the one they would call in. Just to help the executives that were having meltdowns, or the really fun ones for me were the big real estate groups, especially here in Los Angeles. You have these awesome guys and gals who just, they deal with these properties that are worth, 20, 30, $40 million and big real estate buildings. And, friends of mine happen to manage them, and they will call me at the end of the year to do like a little workshop. And I had a client in a workshop who, it was her first year as a real estate agent. She was at one of the top ones in not just Los Angeles, but the whole country. And she hadn't made a sale all year. And my method, like you said, is, again, these are simple tools. There's a lot of tools out there that work. And I'm an advocate of, I feel like with what I teach, I will always be here. I'm a lighthouse. I encourage everyone to find what works for them. My tools are very simple and they will always work. And that's why I love them. And they will help you find the tools that work for you. So she had tried other manifesting law of attraction methods and they hadn't worked. And she really wanted to make a sale. It was around Christmas. Actually, it was right around this time last year. And she was really distraught because, it's part of being in that world. You have to make sales. You have to get a property listed. And it just wasn't working. She was talented. She was great. And I said, okay, don't worry. Listen, look, these are super easy. Just trust me. Give me 2 weeks. I know you will have a property. So she said, okay, I'll jump in. So she did every morning for those of you out there who haven't read the book. Here's what you do. You do your intention list, the want list, super easy. It's just 5 to 7 things that you intend. You write it out every morning. And then on the next page, it should only take about 5 minutes total, everything I'm about to list out here. So you do your want list and then your belief list. And all the belief list is, you look at those 5 to 7 wants that you've written down on the first page. And if something is 51% or more believable to you, you're just going to write it down, just 2 of them on this belief list. And that's also part of the programming of this filter. And then the final step for the morning is your actual script, which is the fun part. This was my big breakthrough, which helped me to create so many amazing things and be on TV in my life, is you write your script. And it's short, it's simple, it's sweet. You can do it in your cell phone. You can do it on your computer. You don't have to use a pen and paper. You can make it quick and easy, whatever that is for you. But you will write out, after you've done your intentions and your 1 or 2 beliefs, the day. Now, remember, it's first thing in the morning, but you're going to pretend it's the end of the night and you're in bed and you're writing in your journal, and you're going to write out how your whole day went, and you're folding in the desires, the things that are on your want list, or things that you just are normal, basic, magical, mundane things, I call them, because that's another key to manifesting we'll talk about later, is folding in the really boring stuff. And part of the reason you want to do that, for instance, if you have a dental appointment, you want to make sure, it's first thing in the morning, you're pretending it's already happened. It's the end of the day, you're just writing out how it went. And my dentist appointment went great, and it was so much easier than I thought it would be. And you're just, you're not faking it. It's a weird process at first, but after a day or 2, it feels great, because you will see that you're actually having those smaller experiences, like having a great dental appointment, maybe you usually don't, happen. And here's why. That client that I had at the real estate firm, she was so totally distraught. So she started doing the process. And the last step of it is just at night, you actually write the forensic version of your day. So if you had a horrible day and you just started scripting, it's okay. You're going to write out what happened, because the goal ultimately with my process, and it's really easy, is just that the script you write in the morning will eventually match your actual journal at night of what happened. So she did the process. She wanted a $10 million or more property that was worth that much. And she did it it was just a day over 2 weeks. And she called me so excited, because it was so weird how it happened for her. And it did happen. So she was walking to her normal coffee shop right down the street from the office, big high rise, Sunset Boulevard, right at the end, right on the edge of Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. And she always went by the same little bookstore every day and never really thought much of it. So this particular day, she was walking by and noticed a sign outside, a huge sign advertising a very, very well-known person. I can't name them because of what I'm about to tell you. But she was a very big fan of this person. Most of you know him. And he was giving a talk and a book signing at kind of a weird hour of the day. So she said, "Oh, I'll just pop in really quick." And it was the end of his talk. Anyway, long story short, she goes up, introduces herself. Turns out he has a property in town, doesn't have a real estate agent. They hit it off. They have lunch the next day, and the property got to be hers. Now, what's the wild part of the story is she asked the bookstore owner, there was a sign advertising that he was going to be speaking there outside of the bookstore for over a month. So she walked by every single day and didn't even notice it. She was a huge fan of this guy, but she had not programmed her filter to look out for opportunities, because while she didn't put him specifically on her morning list, she was telling her mind and basically programming and using the law of attraction and using science now that we know of how to actually, kind of activate it in a better way to say, hey, brain, look for these opportunities, people, places, and signs, literal signs around me that will lead to the manifestation. So that's what happened. She got it listed and she ended up selling that property. And I just love that story. And I wish it could have been in my book, but it's the best example recently of just how powerful it is to know what you're activating and using when you're using the law of attraction.
Royce, that did such a beautiful job of tying everything together that we've been talking about, from how the random activating system, or whatever, the reticular activating.
I know it's a mouthful.
The
I'm
RAS.
always like reticular. Yes.
So
RAS. I like what you said. I write it like that in my book.
That's why I love your book, because it brings so much science in. And before that, the law of attraction can seem very woo-woo. And I'm into the woo-woo. I mean, I'm into that stuff too. But like you say in your book, you wanted something that's reliable, that can be replicated. You go in a lot of different directions with the science in your book, and I want to bring up something else, so I'm sure we get time to talk about it. You actually introduced me to Randonauting. And
oh my goodness.
I'm so excited that Joshua Lingfelder is actually going to be on the show April 11th, and we're going to talk more about Randonauting. But can you connect the dots for us between how Randonauting came up and how we can manifest? What do the two have to do with each other?
Well, please mention my book and tell him hello for me.
I will.
I absolutely laugh because, well, we're going to have to get into what Randonauting is for anybody who doesn't know at this point. I think it's pretty rare, but we'll get there with the story like always. But I'll tell you, this is so interesting, and this is God's honest truth. How books are written. This particular book, I like to write my books all together. I don't, I like to write it all at once as a manuscript and send it in rather than a proposal and working on it for much longer. I still get editors and I have a great publisher. But there's something about actually physically just writing the book itself and not kind of taking a big space of time over time for me personally. So I wrote this book actually before Randonauting existed, and it was November and December 2018, and then I got the book deal in January of 2019. So in April of that year, right around the time we were deciding on the final name and the cover, knowing that it would be out in about a year, I was introduced to, at the time, it was called the Fatum bot, which was incredible to me because it allows anybody out there with a smartphone, Android or iPhone, doesn't matter, to connect to a quantum computer. And you may be going, well, what the heck does this have to do with manifesting? Well, that's what I said too, because that's not at all what it was, how it was presented to me either. It's just my very nerdy science side, and just gets really crazy and excited about anything science. And I wanted to see what it was about, because that was the first, it's really the first public availability of any sort of access for us to anything quantum. So I was interested. And the idea was this: you would just literally put in your address or wherever you were. And the idea is you just go for a walk. You will put in your coordinates, and it actually sends through your phone the information to a quantum computer. And I'll explain what's so different about this in a second. But you get an address or location within a couple blocks of your home or wherever you are. You want to be safe when you do it, obviously, and heed all local laws. I have to always put that out there. And you walk to this spot wherever it is. Now, that doesn't sound that exciting, except there is something in the world called the Sierpinski Triangle, and you can go on my website and you can actually see a video that explains it beautifully. And the idea is this: there's determinism in the world, which is where we have these trodden paths that there's a school of thought that believes we never can go off them. Obviously, the law of attraction and manifesting and the woo-woo that you and I love tells us differently. But, for the most part, I think that there's sort of this, I know that we all have these patterns, and what Sierpinski's Triangle, without spoiling it too much, shows us, and there's actually, I have an image of it in my book because it directly relates to the Randonauting and the Fadenbot, no matter what you do with in your life, you will always end up in the same spaces, and there will just be places in your own neighborhood, even within a few feet of your house, that you will never step foot. And there's this very weird exercise that they have called Sierpinski's Triangle to prove it. And you can even try it at home. There's all versions of it online. But basically, the old version, before they had computers that could do it really fast, was you'd put 3 dots on a piece of paper, roll a dice, hundreds, if not thousands of times, and you would just put a dot halfway between the dot, depending on the that you first put there, depending on what number it lands on. Again, I don't want to lose anybody, but long story short, no matter what, it always creates the same image with these blank triangles in the middle. So it always forms this very strange looking triangle with blank spaces, no matter what. And the idea and how it applies to the map of our world, those blank spaces are the spaces we will never be or never go. So by sending coordinates to a quantum computer, they have a quantum random number generator, which can basically, the original theory as it was presented to me was, it could send you somewhere in your neighborhood that you never, ever, ever have been seen or would have gone to. And we started playing with it, and there was, Sheryl, I think it was like 60 people knew about it. I am completely serious.
Wow.
I think there was 60 or 70 people in the group on Reddit, and it immediately became clear that something crazy was going on because, I would write my intention list in the morning, and then I would get this little app out on my phone, and I started to say to myself, if I, right before I get this location in my neighborhood, now we tried it a few times and it was really weird. The first time I ever did it was so bizarre because the 70 people were reporting all sorts of really weird things, where they would walk up to a mural that had direct impact or direct symbolism to their life, or the weirdest things would happen where there was an alleyway or a statue of Judy Garland was one that was 2 houses down from somebody, literally in like basic plain sight. And the bot sent them to walk there, and they had never seen it before. Just all these things. It was really just, kind of anecdotally very interesting that this quantum computer would send you in your own neighborhood to these spaces that you would never have never seen before. But on top of that, really weird things were happening, like very supernatural sounding things. People would have car trouble, their phone batteries would die. And I was just really intrigued. And I said, what if I actually put down an intention like I do on my morning list before I go on this walk? And my partner and I were playing with it, and we said, what if we draw pictures? So all this is in the book. I should add all of my original scripting images of the journals, and I like to keep records of everything. And we have the actual images that we drew of, it was a cactus and a rainbow, and I'm trying to think what the third one was, but we started to draw just pictures in our phone, very basically with our hands, and we would put in a location, and this quantum computer in Australia would send back a location here to me in Los Angeles, and we would walk, and we start to see, for instance, the rainbows it would lead us to a spot where sidewalk chalk had just been drawn of rainbows. And then we'd look up and there would be a cactus, and then there would be a rainbow on the wall. And then it was a wagon wheel was the one the first day. And my partner had written down, he did, so it's really, really funny. We were very, very interested at the time in this idea of basically like the Fibonacci sequence, the idea that there's like this perfect math in everything, seashells and plants, and it, so he drew that. And so we're very different. I'm like there drawing rudimentary rainbows and cactuses, and he's drawing a Fibonacci sequence to see if that, it'll take us there. And it did. It took us to a pile of seashells in the middle of Los Angeles, landlocked. We're not landlocked, but my neighborhood is very far from the ocean. And it blew our minds. So long story short, for everybody out there listening, we started to realize that this was sort of a way, by using this quantum computer, and it's accessible to everybody for free, you could start to correct path and get out of this. We were finding ourselves manifesting things so much quicker, big things that we had wanted. And the reason that I postulate about in the book, and I think happens is because this, we're interacting with a technology that we don't fully understand yet, but we know enough to know that it can help break us out of our determined, like kind of boring, sad, angry, mad, or even really happy, but very not where we want to totally be paths. And all the science of it it's really actually not that hard to understand, and it's kind of wild. And what happened was I brought it to my editors, and I'll button the story in a second, but I will say when I brought it to my editors, they all tried it. And my editor, Jenny, we were done. We were actually, Sheryl, we were done. We had about 30 pages of, just fixes in the book and little things that just normally happen in the process of book writing that are very exciting and, fun. But as soon as I knew what was going on, I knew that this was going to change the world. And I knew that what is now Randonauting would be an extremely popular thing. So, the problem was only 70 people were in this group. And she said, okay, Royce, look, they all tried it. And they all had insane experiences where they were having literal messages on walls. And they're on the East Coast. I'm here in the West Coast. And people now are, at this point submitting pictures, of all these crazy birds. People were seeing birds. And I'll tell you, one thing that's actually going in my next book that's coming out next year is the first time that we said out loud, my husband and I, okay, we are going to do this for manifesting, and we're going to do it in a whole different way. And we have photographic evidence of this. An eagle, I swear to you, landed on the fence post right on my house in front of us, right when we pressed the button, and a giant eagle. And I have all these photographs and videos of it. And we look over to the left, and there seems to be a bird connection to this randonauting and this idea for whatever reason. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about it, but it seems to be sort of a good omen for the little walk or trip you go on. So we had an eagle land, and we went, all right, well, this is going to be interesting now that we're really getting into it. So my editor finally said, okay, well, look, we're going to do it, but if this app goes away, there was no app. We were using like a third-party messenger service, and I said, it's not going to go away. So we knew at the time the book came out the day after my birthday, and the week, that's why I said you need to apologize when he's on your show, because my book came out, and I believe it, we were in the middle of the severe lockdown across the whole country. So it was interesting because I knew that once the lockdown restrictions would be adjusted over the coming months, people who bought the book would start to do this because people were so generous, so nice, and writing all these great things, but no one was writing about the Fatum bot, and which is now called Randonautica. And then all of a sudden, I believe it was in the same exact week, my book came out and 2 newspaper articles came out. And then about 3 weeks later, about half the country had eased lockdown restrictions, and it just seems like everyone found out about it at the same time. And I believe their servers crashed.
Yeah, we crashed the servers. Absolutely.
You crashed the servers, you guys. Well, and I knew it because of this. I got about 350 emails. I was very fortunate with this book. It's my first book. It's what I've always wanted to do, is be an author and teach law of attraction in a whole new way. And I had gotten all these emails before that, just, from readers who are excited about the scripting method. And Sheryl, it was the weirdest thing. I got one email from a guy it was in Washington State. I still remember his name. I'm not going to say it just out of respect for his privacy, but because it was so impactful. He sent me this email where he, had been going through all these financial troubles, and, he wanted to try something. So he was scripting. He said, you know what, it was like the day that they were finally allowed to really go walking around again in I think it was, May at some point, early May. And he went out and he actually found $100 bill on the ground. And then he ended up giving that $100 bill to this homeless person, and someone watched him do that. And this was at the Randonauting location he was sent to. And someone saw him give to the homeless person and then ended up giving him $500, which helped him pay his rent. And then 6 minutes, I will never forget later, from this guy, I'll say his first name, Don, I get 2 other emails, and it was like my phone started to explode. And I said to myself, oh no, everyone's been locked up. My book came out, this article came out at the same time. I was like, oh no, they're going to kill me. This is not good. This is great, but oh my goodness, I hope it's okay. So I've been sort of hiding from them. No, I love them to death, but I haven't. All I know is that they have such incredible information on their website and on Reddit, and they're great at explaining it, way better than I am. But the idea of introducing an intention to it was partly my fault. I do know, and I apologize. But the reason I think it's so exciting is because now, the end of the story there is I believe it's just about over 500,000 people, if not more, and who are using it, up from that 70 a year and a half ago, and it's everybody knows about it, and all over the world. I people in Australia, I swear, are addicted to Randonauting, and they write me all the time and have the most amazing stories. Because what I say is, when you use this app, and it's crazy, because Sheryl, it's free, and it is. I'm curious to hear if you've had any experiences, because it sounds like you might have, and whether they're big or small, people, it's in a way, it's like you're communicating directly with, whether you want to call it the universe, God, or your higher self. It is a way to take actually a little bit of control of that flow and kind of operate in both of those worlds, like we were talking about at the top of the show, because we actually are breaking out of our determined back and forth trodden path. And it's wild. I'm assuming, have you been able to go Randonauting yet? Because I know it's pretty half and half.
Yes. I went, and what I was going to say about it is, it's a way to use the power of intention to ask the universe a question and get an immediate answer.
Yes,
and it is so fun.
Yes. It is. You nailed it, Sheryl. See, guys, this is why you listen to Sheryl, because she says things better than I can about it. It is. The first week that the emails were coming in like crazy, and they really haven't stopped, honestly. I said to a really good friend of mine who's actually a radio host, I said, it's like being able to talk to the universe, and how you just said it is accurate. It is. You can ask a question through intention, and just, it was one of those really magical. Of course, for years, I wanted, my intention and what I wanted to attract was, information to help me give to readers and everyone out there the best way to use the law of attraction, simplest, most fun way to do it. That was, like you said, something that's replicable and also just really unique. And it was that perfect timing of just being introduced to what is now Randonautica. And that entire community was just a couple dozen people, and knowing I knew it would blow up, and it working, it happens, and people see it all the time. And if anybody out there is listening going, what are they saying? You can go, it's Rando, Rando, and then Nautica, Nautica. They have their Reddit forum. They're online. It's very easy. You could get it in the App Store. I do not work for them, sell anything. It's all free. It's all very fun. And you just type in coordinates where you're at, and it will say it's totally safe, secure, and it will send you somewhere in your neighborhood, and what I find, and what I'm sure you have too, isn't it weird? All the places like literally that are right next to you, where you live or wherever you are that you think you know so well.
Yeah.
That I've had why I'm still having experiences, and I live, in a very kind of it's a very Americana area of LA. It doesn't feel like LA. It's very suburban. This nice little patch I live in here, and it is wild. It's not like, a big city part of this area, where you would expect tons of new stuff. It's different. And every time that we go, we see something nuts or something happens. But I love the part where it is like getting an answer. And it is so to the point where you get answers really, really fast. And if you're using like whatever system works for you, mine is very easy for people. If you just put an intention, you can even just write it in your phone, you get guidance. And it's so confirming for people. And it's neat because, and that's such a simple word, but it's backed by incredible science. So there is this, my whole goal in life is to bridge that world between science and spirituality. That's what my new TV show in England is about. We have people coming on that show that are PhDs. We had Dr. Tina Grayson, who helped develop one of the only 2 cures for Ebola. She's a very famous scientist, never goes on any show about spirituality. A really good friend of mine. She came on and said it's time for these worlds of, what we're talking about here, law of attraction, manifesting, to come back together with science. And then we had one of the most famous neuroscientists in the world, Dr. Mona Sabani, on my show. And she said this quote, and I wish the show was airing in the States. I know they're going to start airing next year. But she actually said that whether you're calling it what we study in neuroscience and in the scientific fields, all of these discoveries that we're seeing with the mind, or you're calling it the law of attraction and manifesting, it's the same thing. It's the same force. So it's really cool to be a very small part of this incredible wave that's beginning. And that's evidenced by you talking and mentioning Randonautica, because there was a very real fear.
It's not even just randonauting or anything. We're talking about the power of intention and how science is finally catching up with the fact that we're the miracle.
Catching up.
We're all looking for all these magical tools, and we're the tool. And we just need to learn how powerful our words and our thoughts are, how easy it is for us to manifest our intentions, which, you've got a system that's more proven than some of the less tangible, structured ways that we've tried to use. But I think that defines this era really for us. We're all waking up to some idea of how powerful our intentions and our words are.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like you said, science is catching up, and I know sometimes my publisher gets mad, but look, like my method, like you don't have to buy my book to get it. If you listen to this show, it's easy. We talked about it, and I love that it's simple, but I encourage people to check out those other methods, because this book wasn't even the one that I wanted to write first, but it was the one that, there's a twist ending in my book. I don't want to spoil it, even though it is a nonfiction book. It has a very incredible twist to it at the very end that has to do with the person who wrote the foreword, Mitch Horowitz, who a lot of people out there probably know. But yeah, I feel like there are so many tools that this book helps people feel more confident to go try, that are less, right now proven, but I believe will be soon. And that's why I think your show is so awesome and great, because, people get to experience, all sorts of different methods and hear all different sorts of people that, are really at the forefront of this. I just am happy to be able to provide a set of simple tools for the beginner or the master, and just give people who maybe are in a little bit of a doubt the science, or people like me who, my favorite quote is by Kurt Vonnegut, the author, and he says, "Science is just magic that works." And to me, there's no separation. That's all very magical, whether there's science behind it or not.
That is so true. That is such a perfect, I know we're out of time, so
I could talk to you forever.
But that's a perfect place to stop. You want to give us that quote once again? Science is what?
So it's Kurt Vonnegut, and the quote is, "Science is just magic that works."
Yes. Indeed. And Royce, Christyn, I'm so excited to talk with you and to have you at the forefront of helping us really get better at understanding the power of our words and our thoughts and how we can create the lives that we really want. Again, your website, roycechristian.com, the book, Scripting the Life You Want, Manifest Your Dreams with Just Pen and Paper. I so appreciate you spending time with us today and sharing your wisdom. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you out there listening for sticking around for all my crazy science.
It's wonderful. Your passion is infectious. Thank you so much. And get another book out and we'll have you back on because this is fun. We could do this all day.
Yep, it's coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today. Let us know what you thought of the show at journeyofpossibilities.com and show us some love while you're there at journeyofpossibilities.com/support. And we'll see you next time on Exploring Possibilities.